Hello, sweet friends. Welcome back. I am so grateful to be here with all of you and so happy to be here as always. I want to thank all of you that have been, again, communicating with me through the app. It's been so fun. So, if you have not yet done that, if you go to the show notes, there's a link that says message me or send me a text message. And you can just directly send me a text message through the app and it comes to me. And it's so fun. And I get to respond to them and I get to hear how the episodes are supporting you and how you're using what you are learning. So feel free to do that. And you can also include any content, any kind of subjects you want me to cover. I'd love to hear that. You can also reach out to me directly on Instagram at Vanessa Calderón MD, which is where I hang out when I am out potting with all of you here. And yeah, so I'm not sure what time you are listening to this. It's probably maybe August or so when you're listening. And we are back in school. I have two school-age kids, and our summer ends at the end of July. Our kids go back to school first week of August, which is wild. So I'm recording this while our kids are still out in summer break, but it's wild to think that they will soon be back in school. Okay, what are we talking about today? So today we're going to dive into this concept of stretching beyond your current self, stretching beyond the container that you've created for yourself. Maybe it's your career where you know it's time to jump ship or create something different. Maybe it's a relationship. Whatever it is, we are going to talk about how to acknowledge when it's time for you to grow and what that looks like, what that feels like, and how to do it. So, I want to just jump in and talk about why this matters. I'll tell you, if you can, well, let me, before I say that, just a personal anecdote of why this matters for me. When I decided to jump into the entrepreneurial journey, I had no idea that it was going to require up leveling and growing and so much development that I had to do for myself. And I'll tell you right now, if you are an entrepreneur, you have felt this, that if you choose to get into the entrepreneurial game and stay in the game, it requires you to up level and grow and push past so many like limits that we thought we had on ourselves to be successful. And it has felt so uncomfortable. It has been so uncomfortable. And I wish someone had told me early on that the discomfort is part of the package. It's part of the growth. I wish I knew that when I started. But I know now, and it doesn't really catch me off guard anymore when I know I'm growing because I can feel it and I know what's happening. I can feel it now. I know it's happening and I don't make it a problem. I just now really lean into it. And that's what I want for all of you because whether you are an entrepreneur, whether you are a leader in your workspace or a leader in your home, whether you are just leading yourself, if you want to be a better, bigger version of yourself all of the time, which I is my hope for everyone out there that you choose to be a better version of yourself every day, it requires you to stretch beyond what you have created, beyond who you are today. It requires you to stretch into another version of yourself. And so that's what we're jumping into. So, what does it mean to outgrow your container? Okay, so we're going to talk about what it means to outgrow your container. I'm going to jump into all the science behind it because I love the data. I'm a big fat nerd. I love the science. And then we're going to talk about how to do it and what to watch out for. Okay, so what does it mean to outgrow your container? So, I want you to imagine your current life as kind of this container, which is like a circle that holds you inside of it. And the walls of the circle, the walls of the container are made up of your beliefs, your identity, and what you think is possible for you. So what I think about that is, that we are put inside of this box and we create this container for ourselves, right? We create the container with our beliefs, our thoughts about ourselves, what we think is possible for us. But what happens when we have decided to outgrow that? And sometimes we've decided to outgrow it because we are setting a bigger goal. So it's very proactive. We're setting a really big goal in our lives. We're exploring a new passion. Maybe I want to go and do mixed martial arts, which I've never done before. Or I've decided that in my business, I'm going to create like X number of dollars that I've never done before. And that requires us to push past our container. And, you know, so when it's proactive, sometimes we think it's going to be easier. Like I'm the one setting the goal, so it's going to be easier. And sometimes it is, because the opposite of that is that it can happen to us. Like we are meant to outgrow a container. We are not doing it for ourselves. So life gets in the way and is like, knock, knock, knock. It's time for you to grow. And sometimes that means that we lose a job or we go through a chaotic end in a relationship. We go through a divorce. Whatever it is, it's like it's time for us to grow into something bigger than what we have. So I'm going to bring in a little bit of science to talk about why it can feel so hard. So again, imagine yourself right now in this circle, and the only thing holding us inside the circle is our beliefs, our identity, what we think is possible for ourselves, who we think we are. To push past that, we have to create a new identity. Creating a new identity can feel so uncomfortable. Why? Because your beliefs about yourself, here's where the science comes in. Your beliefs about yourself, like anything else, like your beliefs about money, relationships, anything else, is deeply rooted in neural pathways. So your brain cells have created these neural pathways that create your identity. And those neural pathways are reinforced by something called the reticular activating system, the RAS, the RAS. The RAS is your brain's filter for what we see in the world. It's how we decide what's available to us. It's our perspective. It's what creates our perspective in the world. It's also what creates our bias. So our reticular activating system is where confirmation bias comes from. So as an example, if you believe you will never earn more than, let's say, $100,000 a year, your reticular activating system is it's going to show you evidence to reinforce that that's possible. Every time you ask for a promotion and you don't get it, you're going to be like, see, I knew it. I was never going to make more than that amount of money. And the opposite is also true. I had a client once who was committed to making $200,000 in their consulting business in a year. They were committed to doing that. They were super clear. They had set out all these goals and they did it. And then the next year, they wanted to grow, but they didn't think it was possible to grow past $200,000. And guess what? They never did. Even though they set goals, even though they worked out to go do it, they had a belief that it was not going to be possible or that it was going to be too hard to grow past 200,000. And because of the way our reticular activating system works, they never did it. The same thing is true when you have any other thoughts about yourself. This happens a lot with folks that are trying to lose weight. You might have an idea, an identity about who you are in relationship to your weight. So if you are someone who has weighed, let's say 120 pounds before, and now you're at 135, you probably believe that you can get to 120 pounds. You've done it before, you can get there again. And so if you were going to set a goal to get back to 120, it probably would take some work, but you could probably get there. Now, if you've never been less than 120 pounds and you wanted to get to 100 pounds, let's say, or 110 pounds, it would probably be really hard for you. And when it gets really hard, you'd probably start thinking, it must not be possible. It must not be possible because I've never done it. So that's how sort of our reticular activating system works and why it's so hard for us to grow past the identities that we create. But it doesn't mean that it's impossible. And I'm going to talk about how to do it in just a second. But before I talk about how to do it, I want to just share a little bit about how you know when it's time. Because sometimes we know it's time because we're just the type of person that always wants to grow, that we're always setting big goals. But sometimes that's not who we are. Sometimes what's happening is we're getting these signals like, I feel restless. I'm feeling really restless in the work that I'm doing. I'm feeling like I've been here too long. I'm starting to feel uninspired. Or you might even be feeling apathetic, like, I'm so bored here. It's time for me to do more. You might even hear a little inner whisper. Is there more? Could there be more? Maybe there's more. And your old life starts to feel maybe a little bit boring. So those are some internal signs that you might be ready to grow, to stretch. And there could also be external signs. You are offered a really big opportunity that you've never had before and you're terrified, but maybe the universe is offering it to you because you're ready to grow. Or you receive some other unexpected blessing, like somebody gives you the opportunity to, go on TV and talk to a large audience and again feels terrifying, but maybe it's because you're ready. So those types of disruptions that can push you outside of your comfort zone are other signs that maybe it's time. Maybe you're ready for a new container. Okay, so how do we stretch into this next level? How do we stretch into this bigger version of ourselves? Now, the stretching part, doing the actual work to move past our container and to stretch ourselves is not glamorous. And in fact, it can feel really scary. It can feel awkward. It can feel really vulnerable. And again, that's because we are literally recreating who we are. We are creating a brand new identity, and it requires effort. It requires effort in our brain. It requires our brain to rewire old pathways and create new neural pathways. And anything that requires effort, that amount of work it's hard. It's not easy and it's uncomfortable. And the brain does not like to extend out extra effort. And so we have to be the ones that are smarter than our brain to be like, listen, I know it's uncomfortable. I know it's hard, but I want to do it anyway. So you've got to be the one that's like, okay, I'm capable of doing this. It feels hard and uncomfortable, but I'm capable. I'll tell you in the beginning when I shared how this was so uncomfortable for me in the beginning, and it's still uncomfortable for me now. It's just a different level of discomfort because now I expect it. And so now now I know how to do the work to continue to go forward. But before, man, it was dramatic. Things would get hard. And I remember being like, oh my gosh, this must mean I should quit. This must mean it's not meant for me. This must mean it's too hard. And I would spiral into these thoughts that were just not supportive. So I want to talk about how to avoid that. How can you avoid that? So first of all, I think the number one most important thing to know is that it's hard for everybody. It's uncomfortable. Stretching into whatever next level you're growing into is hard and it's uncomfortable for everybody. It's not just you. You're not alone. You're not weak. It's not because it's not meant for you. It's just hard for everybody. It's just how we deal with what's hard that makes the big difference. Do we decide to move forward or do we decide to quit? That's really just it. So one thing that's going to make it easier for you when you're stretching is to decide ahead of time of who you are becoming. Decide ahead of time of what this new identity is going to be for you. What does this next version of me look like? And be super specific. The more specifics that we can give our brain, the easier it is for our brain to become that. So what does this next version of me look like? What do they think? What do they believe? What are their thoughts? What are their feelings? What do they look? What do they dress like? What does this version of me no longer believe? Like what should this version of me let go of? Like what is not going to serve me? Those specifics, that specific thought work, holy smokes, does it set you up for success when you are growing? It is really, really, really helpful. And then you get to go to work to practice the beliefs. So when you are doing the work of stretching yourself, you practice the beliefs that you created ahead of time. So in the beginning, again, as your brain is doing all the work of rewiring, you're going to bump into old beliefs. Now, the old beliefs that you had about yourself, those are the beliefs that were keeping you in the container you had prior, right? So those are your limiting beliefs. They're going to limit you and keep you in the container that you had created previously. That is not what you want. You want to push back those limiting beliefs. Again, limiting beliefs are things that we think about ourselves that are not giving us the results that we want. So when we want to stretch, if we start bumping into our old beliefs, it's not going to give us the results we want. It's not going to help us stretch into this next version of ourselves. So when things feel uncomfortable, when things feel new, when things feel different, you want to pause and you want to say, okay, I know that this is going to be hard, but this is who I am becoming. So I liked to remind myself, and here's a reminder for you too. So when things get hard for you, when you are stretching, remember this episode right now. Remember this moment. Remember me telling you it's supposed to be hard. It's going to get hard. It doesn't mean that you can't do it. Because guess what? My son says you can do really hard things in the world. So you can do this too. So tell yourself, hey, this is what Vanessa was talking about. This is the part where she said I was going to want to quit. I was going to stop, that this was going to get really hard. I think about this a lot right now because I'm training for a half marathon. So I used to run races all the time. I used to run half marathons a lot. And I grew up an athlete and I was an avid runner. And I haven't trained for a race in a couple years. It's been a while since I've trained for a race. And I know what it feels like when I am conditioned and when I've trained and when I'm out running a long run, like 8+, 10+ miles. I know what it feels like. I know how it feels when I'm warmed up after like mile 3 or 4, when I hit my stride and I feel like I'm just out there flying. I know what that feels like. I also know what it feels like to be deconditioned, to be short of breath, to have sore muscle aches, to be at like mile 3 or 4 and be like, oh my God, my knees are killing me. I know what that feels like too. And so that that second example that I just gave where I'm deconditioned and things feel uncomfortable, I just remind myself right now that I'm pushing past that to as I'm training, I just remind myself like, yep, this is the part where it stinks. This is where it's uncomfortable. This is where my body is building the muscles, the strength, the conditioning to carry me to where I want to go. And it is the same thing with your brain, with your mind. When things feel hard and uncomfortable, it is just rewiring. It is just creating the new neural pathways, your new identity to help you stretch into what you are becoming. The other trick I think the human mind likes to play when things get hard is to tell you that it is impossible. So you should quit. It's not possible anyway. You should just quit. And in my experience, this is, I think, where many people do quit. Many people latch on to limiting beliefs and they use evidence like, well, I've never done it before, so it must not be possible for me. So I want you to just be conscious of this one, watch out for this one, because we never want to create our future desires, our future goals, or who we are becoming based on our past, because of course we've never done it before. That's why it's new. And in the past, we've never done it because we didn't believe it was possible. We had limitations. So we don't want to create our future desires based on our past limitations. Just because you haven't done it before does not make it impossible. So make space for the discomfort. And remember, it's supposed to feel uncomfortable. Every time our brain rewires, it takes effort. Every time we're choosing a new thought, feeling a new feeling, it takes effort. The effort is uncomfortable for the brain. And it doesn't mean that you're not ready for it. It just means that it's new and different. Okay. So when you have committed to doing the work and you're out there, you're doing the work, there's going to come a point where it doesn't feel hard anymore. It's going to feel like it might even feel easy, like it's happening for you now. Holy smokes, I did all this work. I've shifted. Now it just feels easy. Like all of a sudden, you are getting what you wanted. And to some of you, this part might sound like awesome. Yes, make it easy. Please just give me what I want. But I'm going to tell you right now that this is so wild. It is the funniest kind of thing that I have seen happen when it starts becoming easy and people start getting what they want. It throws people off their game. It's like, holy smokes, wait a second. Wait, this is happening too easy for me. This was supposed to be hard. And it's almost like this thought, like I'm cheating because it's easy. And what happens is we forget all of the hard work that got us to where we are today, because for many of us, we are not used to things being easy. And we have a bunch of thoughts associated with things being easy, like, I must not deserve it if it's easy. If it's coming so easy for me, then I did something wrong. But it's not. What's actually happening is you are now in alignment. You've done the work and you are in alignment. One of my favorite quotes is this quote by, I think you say his name, Goethe, Goethe, the German philosopher. He has this quote that says, until one is committed, there's hesitancy, the chance to draw back, always ineffectiveness. Concerning all acts of initiative, there is one elementary truth, that the ignorance of which kills countless ideas as splendid plans that the moment that one definitely commits to oneself, providence moves too. So the way I paraphrase this or the way I interpret this is the second that you commit and you start doing the work and you know I'm not going back, I'm just going forward, guess what? Divine, the universe, providence moves too. It moves to help you. It moves in your favor. And then all of a sudden things start to feel easy. But it's not because they were always easy. You had to do the work. It just feels easy now. Oh man, this feeling easy can cause a sense of guilt. And I just want to name that now so you can be prepared for it. You might have thoughts like, why is it coming so easy to me? Or look at all these people who are still working so hard. Why don't they have it? Oh, I feel so guilty. They should have it too. And we might even have an identity that in order for something to be worth it, we have to keep working really hard. Or for you to be successful, it has to be hard. I remember actually when this started happening to me and I started hitting all my metrics and all of my goals that I had set for myself early on in my entrepreneurial career. And I would not accept that as success. And I remember thinking to myself, oh, no, 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 no. No, success is when this happens and I have to work harder for it. Or I would think like, wait a second, I haven't worked hard enough for this. And that is just so fascinating to me looking back. But of course, because it can almost feel like it's almost like this, like a sense of morality. Like it makes me feel better because I'm working harder. And that feels moral, like, oh, but I don't deserve that. Look at all these people that are suffering. We should all be working really hard. So I'm just naming that to make you aware that that might come up for you. And truthfully, what do these stories do for us? They do not serve us. They keep us stuck. They keep us stuck in overwork, in burnout, in sense of suffering. And it doesn't make it better for the world. When other people suffer and we choose to suffer too, it's not better for the world. It's not better for the world at all because you're just increasing the number of suffering, the level of suffering in the world. So I just want to say that again, because if you have the ability, if you are blessed to enjoy success, to have it come to you after working so hard for it, receive it, be open to it, be grateful to it. Don't block it. Don't block it. Don't block it from coming to you by saying things like, I don't deserve it, or, I feel guilty, because it negates all the hard work that you had to put in to create the work that you've already created. So if you are having these experiences when it feels easy or it's coming to you and you're starting to feel uncomfortable about it, I have found that the easiest way to deal with this is to counter those feelings with gratitude. So as an example, you could just say, I am so grateful that I have created this, or I am so grateful that my audience has grown, or that my impact is expanding. I am so grateful that I'm being supported to create what I desire. I am so grateful. And I sit with gratitude. I sit with gratitude all the time because I love it, but I had to sit with so much more gratitude when everything I wanted to create was being created. It was so uncomfortable for me, and I had to sit with so much gratitude. So I want to offer that to all of you. Other things that can really support you when you are stretching, we are wrapping up here, just so you know, but a few other things that can really support you when you are stretching. If you haven't already, is create a vision board of what you are stretching into. So it's the same thing as creating the identity. It just gives your brain an image, just like when you decide ahead of time of who you are becoming, it gives your brain more specificity of who you are growing into. The other thing that's really helpful is to have a community that can celebrate you, a community that you trust, that you feel safe in, that can hold your vision, that can remind you of who you are becoming. It could be a small group of friends that you connect with. Maybe it's a mastermind you're a part of. And other things that are supportive are having a coach or a mentor that can guide you to help you navigate, especially when things are getting uncomfortable and you want to quit. They can help you stay in your growth. They can help you continue to stretch into who you are becoming. So stretching yourself past your current container is not for everyone, but if it is for you, if you are someone that's choosing this, then I want to celebrate you because it's not easy, but it is so worth it. It is so rewarding. And I'll just leave you with the one last thing, which is this. Everything comes in cycles. And in my mind, the cycle of growth or stretching looks like stretching or the growth part, and then this part of integration, you being these new ways of being that you have created. So the stretch is uncomfortable, but then you get to integrate, you get to just be, and then it's celebration. Wow, I'm so grateful. And for me, celebration looks like gratitude. I am so grateful for who I have become, for what I have created. So stretching, integration, celebration. That is how I sort of see the beautiful cycle of growth. So not every season is expansion. Not every season is celebration. Sometimes it's the discomfort of growing. Sometimes it's just the being, the integrating. And then sometimes it's also the celebrating. So as I close, I just want to remind you that again, it's not for everyone, but if it is for you, it's an awesome opportunity that you get to really step into if that's who you want to be. And if you decide to do it, remember you're not alone. If you don't have a community, you are part of this community, this podcast itself, this podcast community. You are part of this community. So no, you're not alone. We are all in this together. So stretch into who you are becoming. Let it be uncomfortable. Remember that the discomfort is part of the process. And on the other side of discomfort, that is where your dreams lie. That is where your desires lie. So do the work. I will celebrate you and you get to celebrate yourself. All right, sweet friends, I will see you next time. Adios.